All right, it's now 7:15. I'm going to call the Public Works and Economic Development Committee to order. Members are Mrs. Ramos, Mr. Rippeth, and myself. My alternate is Mr. Ricklick, who is excused. We have one item to discuss tonight, and that's proposed ordinance 11, 2023, regarding the CHIP grant, lead paint removal, and any other matter that shall come before committee. Committee, everybody got to see the legislation? Is there any questions from the committee? Mrs. Ramos?
I guess this might be directed to Mr. Fate.
Yes.
The PY on there, does that mean planning year or should it be FY for fiscal year?
You
On the
know,
ordinance.
I just took what they sent to me and put it in our format, so I don't know.
So does anybody know what PY means?
Fiscal year,
Physical,
fiscal year,
that's what I
right?
was thinking.
No.
So it should be FY, but it says PY, so I was thinking, well, maybe it means
Physical ed.
planning year.
Might be planning.
Could be too.
Could be planning year.
Is it 20 planning year 2023? Couldn't it be physical
Mayor, you might have a question.
instead of fiscal,
What's
physical
that?
year?
The ordinance reads PY, is that planning year? as
Yes,
opposed to-
planning year, PY.
There you go. I was Googling to find out what it was.
I was looking for it, I didn't see the thing. Oh, you know what's on this?
Well, the planning year, is that the same as the fiscal year, or, because they would be different?
No, it's a different calendar. It's
Okay.
whatever their planning year is, the start and stop date.
I assume that's so they can build their plan on how they're gonna utilize the money, and then they would have a different set of parameters in which to spend it.
Right.
Through the CHIP grant.
Any other questions from committee? Council, anybody have any questions? Administration or guests? Seeing none, is there any action to be taken on proposed ordinance 11, 2023?
I move that we put it on the agenda.
Thank you. I have a second?
I would second that.
Second, okay, well, I take a vote. Mrs. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Ribbit?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes also, to be put on tonight's agenda. Is there anything else to come before committee? Seeing none, I'll take it, oh, yes.
Are
Mrs.
you
Beck.
needing it to be passed tonight?
Well, we were waiting to see if everybody was gonna be here, but yeah, that's our goal, is, get it passed, so we'd have it done in time, so we can,
Thank you.
but yes.
I would move for adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Ribbit, at a.
Smooth.
This meeting of New Philadelphia City Council will now come to order. Would you please rise and remain standing for the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Mr. Rippeth will lead us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you join me in prayer? Almighty Heavenly Father, we just give thanks and praise for all that you have blessed us with, Lord, here in this city. You're loving, you're good, you're gracious. And we thank you for creating and sustaining us day by day. Lord, we thank you that you've created us to be people who need community, who need each other and rely on one another. And Father, we thank you for the wonderful people, businesses, churches, and other organizations that make up our city. Lord, I would ask that you watch over all of our safety service personnel as they go about their business of protecting the residents of this city. And I would ask that you be with us here tonight, Lord, to guide and direct our steps, that we would do things that are within your will. Give us wisdom and discernment in all the decisions that we make. Lord, I thank you for the willingness of the body here to serve, and just ask you to be a part of our meeting here tonight. It's in Jesus' name that I do this. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it
stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, and welcome our visitors and all those who are watching by stream. We'll start our meeting with the roll call.
Mr. Holland.
Present.
Mr. Lonzer.
Here?
Mrs. May.
Present.
Mr. Pace.
Present.
Mrs. Ramos.
Here.
Mr. Ricklick. Mr. Rippeth.
Present.
All right, let it be known that Mr. Gerber and Mr. Rickling are excused from the meeting tonight. All right, everybody's had a chance to review our agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to add proposed ordinance 11 to the night's agenda.
Do I have a second?
I would second that.
All right, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 11, 2023 has been added to the agenda. Are there any other additions to the agenda tonight? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight. Mr. Holland, thank you. Need a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rippeth. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
All right, agenda has been approved. Minutes, everybody's had a chance to review the minutes from our last council meeting. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Lonzo, need a second. Mr. Holland, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Abstain.
Mr. Pace.
Abstain.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
All right, minutes have been approved. Correspondence, Ms. Courtright.
To council and administration from Mayor Day dated June 30th, 2023. This is an email titled Buckeye Energy Brokers Presentation at the July 10th, 2023 council meeting. To council and administration from Jamie Bailey, Executive Administrative Assistant to the Mayor, dated June 30th, 2023. This is the June Mayor's Office End of Month Report. To council and administration from Vicki Daniels, Income Tax Administrator for the city, dated July 3rd, 2023. This is the June Income Tax Report. To council clerk from Treasurer Gerber, dated July 7th, 2023. This is the City of New Philadelphia Investment and Savings Report for June of 2023. To council and administration from Heather Denham with the Auditor's Office, dated July 10th, 2023. This is the June 2023 month-end report. And to council and administration from Mayor Day, dated July 10th, 2023, the mayor's report. And that concludes correspondence for this evening, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Ms. Courtright. All right, move into our administrative reports. First up, Mayor Day.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members, fellow administrators, and guests. A couple things I want to highlight from the report I sent you earlier today. Last Wednesday, Service Director McAbeer and myself and municipal court officials met with representatives of Patterson Pope, the company that installed the courts filing system, the municipal courts filing system, in the basement of the police department. I asked for the meeting so that the company reps could develop a quote for moving the filing system into the north bay of the old fire station. The police department building is near capacity and needs to reclaim the basement space. Plus, locating the records in the old fire station would make access to them more convenient for the court. The fire department has a new building, so now it's time to focus on the future needs of our police department and law enforcement overall in the city. I plan to include the hiring of additional officers and the cost of moving the filing system in my 2024 budget proposal to City Council. Also, the Board of Trustees of the Little Theater of Tuscarawas County will be presenting a rezoning request to the City Planning Commission tomorrow during the Commission's monthly meeting here in Council Chambers. That begins at 1. The Board owns 5 parcels at Cary Avenue and 5th Street Northwest. The trustees' request is to rezone the parcels from residential to business to complete the Little Theater's renovation project. I've invited representatives of Buckeye Energy Brokers to address council tonight. Mr. Bellish, Mr. Danger are here with us, and they're going to be proposing an electric aggregation program. As we know, the cost of electricity is on the rise, and residents are looking for options. Aggregation may be one of them. That will be up to City Council to decide. So I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Tom Bellish so he can explain Buckeye Energy Brokers aggregation proposal. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. This presentation tonight is for anybody who uses electricity and has seen the bill lately. You may have seen that go up quite a bit.
Well, you need to turn that on, Marvin. Marvin, turn that mic on. Is it green? It's green.
All right, thank you.
All right. Good evening, Council.
Yeah, it doesn't amplify, Tom, it's just for recording purposes.
All right.
And we stream live on YouTube, so that audio is also going.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, Council. Tom Bellish from Buckeye Energy Brokers. We've been working with the city for about 12 years now, and we have right now we do the natural gas opt-in aggregation program. So the price is currently $4.05 per MCF, which is compared quite well to the local Dominion rates lately that are variable. So residents in that program have saved quite a bit of money. That price goes through October of 2024, and currently 512 residents are in that program. We'd like to see that be a lot bigger through opt-out or maybe more promotion of it. We could work with the city and Constellation to promote it more and maybe do another mailing this fall to those who aren't in it. Those who missed out, paid a lot more with Dominion. Those who did nothing and just stayed with Dominion paid a lot more this past winter. So for the electric program, we're estimating about 6,000 customers would be eligible for the program. This is a graph of AEP's rates. Price to compare, PTC is price to compare. So that's the AEP default rate. If you just stay with AEP, that's the rate you pay. Residents would pay on that. So that's about 11 cents right now. And we're seeing market prices about 6.5. So communities we're working with are paying about 6.5 in the AEP. We have some lower than that were set long ago, but a rate as of today would be something like 6.5 or something. So that price over 11 cents does go through all the way through May of 2024. So AEP's rates we're expecting to be high. It was a competitive rate for quite a while. You can see prices were fairly low, and it was kind of somewhat market price, but lately it's very difficult for them to get buyers. There's not a lot of suppliers bidding on the auctions that they use, and the prices have gone up. So it's a price we've can steadily beat. You know, we've been beating it through the years. It's even easier to beat it now. We're beating it now right now by 5 cents an MCF, or 5 cents a kilowatt hour. This chart has the action steps, how to implement a program like this. So it would require a ballot question in November, and then by March the program could start after all these steps to get it implemented. This is a slide on 8 different ways that residents would be safeguarded against the opt-out program. So, like I said, you have the ballot question, and then you have the city and city council deciding on the supplier and the agreement, and then you have a 21-day opt-out period, and after that, AEP gives you another 7-day opt-out period. So you get every resident would get 2 letters in the mail. And then you can also permanently opt out. Any resident can do that today. They could opt out permanently, whether you have a program or not. But this is one for anybody who just doesn't want to be part of it for their own reasons, and they can do that. So anybody who is under contract with another supplier right now is not affected. They don't even get a letter. There's no change with that. We can't interfere with that. And then there's always free to opt out, and it's easy to opt out by returning a card or calling the supplier, AEP, or even Buckeye Energy. We would take that call as well. And then since the letters have to go out to residents, if it does get returned for any reason, that customer is opted out as well. So they must receive the letter to be included. This is a little bit more about us. We've been working in the business for 35 years now and have over 200 buying groups that we work with. We were first to implement electric aggregation. So in 2000, when electric utility first deregulated, Buckeye Energy was the first to implement electric aggregation in Ohio and in the nation. So we also have a toll-free number. So residents call into the city. City doesn't have to, really take that call, just forward it to us. We have a toll-free number that can be distributed as well, and talk to questions and give them advice and answer questions. So a little bit about us. I know one of the questions brought up already was about the ballot and the payment. I think one of the ways we could handle that would have the winning bidder pay the cost of the ballot. We could put that in the request for proposal, would be one idea, or some other creative financing, or to get, not financing, but have it get paid as part of the program. So we would be willing to negotiate that on the city's behalf as well. I know that was brought up.
I checked with the Board of Elections. There will be no cost to the city
Oh, no
for
cost?
putting it on the November ballot.
Okay, all right. That's good. So, yeah, there's some other cities we work with there at the bottom. Part of the negotiations too, there's either grant money available to the city or something like energy efficiency programs. We've negotiated as well. There's certain cities, so it's for like energy efficiency projects, you could be reimbursed. We have cities reimbursed like up to $30,000 a year for any energy efficiency programs that they're doing. You can be reimbursed for those costs, and that doesn't add to the residents' cost for the program. So that's independent, whether you want it or not. The price is the same, but if you wanted to do some sort of energy efficiency program, we know of suppliers who offer that as well. So there's some things in it for the city. There's some things in it for the residents, and I think it's a good way to avoid the higher AEP generation rates. So that's what we have for tonight. We can answer any other questions about it.
Do you have a program for residential properties that have solar power?
So that's based on the supplier accepting that. That's hard for a supplier to sign up a customer like that. Normally, you're just with the local utility for distribution and generation. Now, since the supplier needs to schedule that power in advance, they don't know if that's going to be a sunny day or a cloudy day. They have to still schedule that power. It's very difficult for a supplier to schedule that. You just don't know that you're actually going to use any. Or if their system's down, it's very hard to schedule. So most suppliers do not offer something for solar as well. Yeah. You're welcome. Question?
Actually, I have several. I've already chosen my
Okay.
supplier. So, because, well, you know about apples to apples,
Yes.
and you research it and you take care of your own bills, right? So, my question is this: are you guys on apples to apples so people can compare prices, or you represent a supplier?
No, we represent the city. We represent the city, send out requests for proposals to the ones who bid. Not all the ones on Apples to Apples will bid, but the ones that do, we're usually getting better pricing than through Apples to Apples.
So what I think I heard you say was council decides on the supplier.
Yes. We would make
Okay,
a
so-
recommendation through our RFP process, but council would approve.
So we would take that away from our 18,000 residents, and we 7 would decide a supplier.
It would be an opt-out program, so residents have many ways of avoiding it. First one is the way you're doing it, which is you're already signed up, so you wouldn't even get a letter in the mail. So that's one way to not let somebody else decide what you're doing is sign up already.
So can this be an opt-in program like the gas?
We haven't had an electric supplier offer that. No. Not for electric. And very few offer, Constellation's one of the few to do gas, so hopefully they'll keep doing it. But yeah, for electric, we have not found one.
That's who I went with for electric. It was
Constellation.
Constellation.
Oh, okay.
Got a
So-
good price.
Okay,
Uh,
so good. So you see the opportunity, the difference that from AEP to doing something, it's, but there's a lot out there who aren't, and so we've kind of seen that on the gas side, so we know there's a lot of people that are not shopping, so. And we'll see the data too. When AEP sends us the data, we see who's shopping, who's not, so we know.
Yeah, and that's okay.
We know that.
So it's an opt-out, so people have to be in it,
No.
except for the reasons you gave.
Except for those reasons.
And council picks a supplier, but you guys would tell us who the best suppliers are.
Right, we would rank them and make a recommendation based on the bids, absolutely.
And the rate's usually pretty low, is lower than AEP's.
Yeah, or we wouldn't
I
recommend
think
it.
anybody's lower than AEP right now.
Yeah, we wouldn't recommend.
Correct.
There could be a time, and maybe there was a time 10 years ago where AP was the best, so, yeah, we just didn't have anything. But lately, we're seeing a bigger difference between AP and the market price, so yeah, so it's an extra opportunity.
Some of our neighborhoods are serviced by rural cooperatives. Does this apply to those areas, or is it just AEP serviced areas?
Just AEP.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Thanks for bringing that up. But, yeah, when we get the list from AEP, they would not be on it.
Okay.
That's correct.
Any other questions? No, this is just our council meeting. But, any questions by council, other questions?
At the end of the 2024 bill cycle, do you send out another notice, hey, this is what your new rate's gonna be?
Yeah, a letter needs to go out 45 days in advance of the end date. So, yeah, we would have something negotiated in advance to send out, absolutely. Right.
So what I hear you saying is that people that aren't shopping, you guys get that information from AEP and you're gonna kinda have council force them to make a decision.
Well,
Because we choose for them.
well, the first step is to have them vote for it. Because if they vote no, then council can't do anything.
Right.
So in November, they get to vote for it. Yeah,
I'm not in favor of an opt-out program.
okay,
I'm in favor of people can choose their own
yeah.
providers.
But they don't, they don't get that choice with AEP, right? When you sign up with AEP, they give you AEP. So this is the level of the playing field. Now, since Ohio has a deregulated
Right. And we
generation
can
marketplace.
choose.
So when you sign up for service, you have no choice. You have to get AEP generation your first month. After that, you can pick, but you have no choice the first month. So this kind of levels the playing field. And it is something that the voters have to vote for as well.
All right, yes, Mr. Holland.
A clarification of point Ms. Ramos made. Because she already has a provider that she's designated, you said that she would not get a letter.
I
That's
would
correct.
not get a letter.
That's correct.
How does she then find out that she has other opportunities?
Yeah, we could do press releases, city's website. We could get the word out other ways. Through the water bill, some cities use water bill maybe to get it out, to get the word out. But yeah, we could do other means, absolutely.
I certainly want to see all citizens have the opportunity to at least be aware of the program, assuming that they
Yeah.
voted it in.
Yes, we would work with the city to get the word out the other ways, sure, certainly.
All right.
I
All right,
think,
well, thank you,
Don,
Mr.
if I
President.
could-
Yes, Mr. McAvoy.
I think the hardest thing that the hurdle's gonna be for this body is the fact that it's an August 9th deadline for getting it on the ballot, right?
Yes. That's a hard deadline,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mayor Day, you want me to assign that to a committee? I mean, you feel it's something with council needs?
Well, I think it's something you should consider, yeah. And council can decide whether they want to put the issue on the ballot or not.
And we can tell you that we had a meeting today, with the commissioners, and, they're doing it for the putting on the
Unincorporated.
ballot for the unincorporated in the county. And it was unanimously voted on 3-0 to move forward, but it wasn't with, this group, but it was another group.
Mr. Alonso, why don't you take it into your economic development, public works committee and take a look at that meeting. Pursue it. Thanks, guys.
Right, thank you for your time.
All right, we'll move into Service Director's report, Mr. McAbeer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. I want to start with the Franklin Square project, Phase 1 that we've been waiting on. We all had the hurdles with the railroad. Everything has been cleared there, and the contractor is supposed to come in next Monday. And again, Phase 1 is from the Tuscarawas River through Great All's property, up onto Mill Avenue, underneath the railroad trestle there. Excuse me, come up Mill Avenue, go east on Bank Lane and stop there at Fifth Street. And then the following year, we'll do phase two that we got the grant for. But again, they're supposed to start, I don't know if we'll see anything as far as road wise, because by the time they put the 5-foot pipe in, there's 2 different manholes before they make that connection over onto Mill Avenue. But just keep everybody informed if, someone calls or asks what's going on in Great All property, that's what's going on. Remember, that's all 5-foot pipe, designated just for basically Franklin Square's intersection there. We know we have that flooding issue there. So, again, they should be starting next week. Glen Drive, today, they went outside of the original construction zone, because when they came down the hill, there was the outlet that dumped into, again, I think I spoke a little bit about this a couple weeks ago, that piece was compromised, so they put that piece in today. Like I say, it's about a 100-foot run that they need to put in between a couple houses in there, so they made that connection today. So that is done. And also, Wednesday afternoon, the city paving will start. The signs went out today. They'll be down on Springbrook on the southeast side. They'll mill that. Again, he's supposed to be in Wednesday afternoon, so probably not a whole lot gonna get done down there on Wednesday afternoon. The biggest part of the work will be done Thursday and then Friday. Once that's finished, they'll go to Commercial Avenue on the southwest side. It was also on the paving list. After that, they'll update the schedule at that time, and I'll make everybody aware of that at the next council meeting. That's the end of my report.
All right, any questions, Mr. McAbeer? All right, thank you. All right, move on to Safety Director, Mr. Popham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. In the police department, at the end of June, the State of Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections did their yearly inspection of the jail, and the police department received 100% on their inspection. And that's all I have.
All right, any questions, Mr. Popham? All right, move on to the auditor's report, Mrs. Gundy.
I have no report this evening, thank you.
All right, Mr. Gerber is excused. Law Director, Mr. Fate.
No report this evening, Mr. President.
Wow, all right. Move on to our board commission reports. First up, Planning Commission, Mayor Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I said during my mayor's report, we'll be meeting here tomorrow at 1 o'clock to consider the request from the Little Theater Board of Trustees.
All right. Thank you. Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. McAbeer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Board of Zoning Appeals will meet tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. here in council chambers with one variance request to be heard.
All right, move on to Airport Commission, Mr. Lonzer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pending quorum, we will be meeting in council chambers tomorrow night at 6 p.m.
All right. Move on to Park Board, Mr. Pace.
Thank you, Mr. President. No official report this evening, but I think the first town days, the fireworks, all that was a great success over this past weekend. So just congratulate the park, city administration, because those fireworks were pretty good. So,
Yeah, they were pretty.
So just proud of the city. That's all I've got
I
this
think
evening.
we'd all agree on that. They were
Good.
great. All right, move on to Health Board, Mr. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. President. No formal report this evening.
All right, we move into our council finance, or committee reports. Mr. Rickling is not here tonight. Public Works and Economic Development, Mr. Lonzer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Works and Economic Development Committee met this evening at 7:15. We had one item to discuss. It was proposed ordinance 11, and it was in regard to the CHIP grant dealing with removal of lead paint. Committee voted unanimously to have that added to tonight's agenda, and our committee is asking to suspend rules and pass that on first reading tonight.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lonzer. All right, Safety, Health, and Service, Mr. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. President. No formal report.
All right, Zoning and Annexation, Mrs. Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
All right, Salary, Mrs. May.
Thank you, no report this
All
evening.
right, Parks and Cemetery, Mr. Pace.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
All right, Contact and Special, Mr. Rippeth.
Thank you, Mr. President. No formal report tonight.
All right. All right, now the floor is open for visitors' comments. Anyone wishing to address council should rise, state their name and address, and address all comments to the chair. You will be given 5 minutes. Yes. Come on over to the podium if you would, please, and state your name and address.
Good evening. My name's Corey Brinton, address 1147 7 Mile Drive. I came today to see if there's anything in the works to start addressing the increased drug and homeless issue happening in our city. I go to work early, between 5:15 every morning, and over the past 2 months, I've seen a significant increase in drug use, homelessness, people laying on the street, going through our town of New Philadelphia. I see this almost every morning on my way to work. Last Thursday morning, I went to work and there was a man standing in front of the post office in his boxers doing what you call the meth dance. Basically dancing on the sidewalk. As I went around the corner, there was a person sleeping on the park bench in the square. By the time I made it to the Methodist church, there was a gentleman coming across the street with what I would assume be a booze bottle in his hand in a paper bag, who stumbled out in front of me, then promptly almost tripped and face planted on the curb across the street. That's just Thursday morning. 2 weeks ago, my son and I went to the eye doctor on the square Saturday morning. Our appointment was at 8 a.m. Whenever we got there, there was a homeless person curled up in the doorway of the Red Wing Boots store, that little cubby there, sleeping. Like I said, whenever I go to work in the mornings, I see it regularly. I see people sleeping on the benches, sitting on the sidewalks. Regularly, there's people sleeping or sitting outside at 5 a.m. in the morning at the outside of the war zone area there, because there's free Wi-Fi there, whoever puts it on. I've seen it for many years, but just lately it seems to be really increasing. And I'm just wondering, is there anything being done? Is there any works? Are we planning on increasing patrols? I mean, I also see a lot of runners in the morning. Women, older gentlemen walking their dogs. I mean, I drive the same route every morning. I see a lot of regular people. Someone messed up on meth or crack, you know, take your choice. Runs into one older gentleman I see almost every morning walking his dog at, 5:15, 5:30. What if he happens to bump into him? Sort of a safety concern, and I'm just wondering, is this being looked at? Is there anything being done? Is there an attention being brought to it? I guess that's my question.
All right, I know, Mayor Day, new police chief, I'm sure they
The
address.
police are aware of it, and, the Mr. Safety Director Popcan can speak to that more than what I can. But yeah, measures are we're trying to deal with it as best we can. But, it seems to be a seasonal thing. At this point, that's all I can tell you.
Okay, it's just, I don't know. I think there needs to be a little bit more attention brought to it. I do not know a solution that is way outside of my genre. I'm a machinist. I don't know what the solution there is, but I just know I see it every morning more and more and more.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm driving through a major city anymore.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the fact that you came here to tell us what you're seeing.
Mr. Pace, you had a comment?
I know, was about 2 months ago, we, as council, passed a new ordinance regarding loitering and sleeping on park benches and that kind of stuff that violates city code.
That's correct.
So there is, on paper, I think the city council and the administration is working to try to curb that, but it is a very tough.
Yeah, I know there's not an easy solution to this. I'm not looking for boom, hey, we're gonna do this, and it's gonna fix it. I just sort of, I wanted to,
But what
Bring it to
time of day you
attention.
say it's about 5:30 in the morning?
yeah, between 5 and 5:30. I normally am driving through there around like 5:15, 5:20 in the morning, you know,
Okay.
most mornings, and like I said, I see it regularly. I mean, I see what I would have to guess are prostitutes walking into the apartments coming back from their night jobs a lot of mornings. I mean, I'm not quite sure why else a lady would be in high heels and almost no clothing, walking across the street or getting out of a car at 5:30 in the morning.
Okay.
I mean, I see this regularly, so.
Thank you.
Did you have a comment? I know you raised your hand back there when they were talking about the irrigation electric. Did you have a comment?
Oh, I just have two questions for him that I didn't hear an answer for.
Well, we got assigned to a committee. What were your questions, Mr. Lanzer? Can,
No, I was just gonna ask, once you were signed up for it, are you locked in or can you opt out of it?
You can opt out of
Yeah,
it.
you can opt out, I think, at any,
Okay,
at any time.
and then also, how long, cause I know they sort of had like terms up there, like how long do their rates last for? I mean, I'm not sure if it was a
I think
yearly,
they
6
said the end of
months.
24.
It's a year.
Was that, you know,
It's a
I wasn't sure
year.
if that was like a continuous thing, that's just what they set every,
Yeah, we'll
So
have to,
the billing would start the March of 2024.
when I
and
when I
then
have a
it would run
committee meeting,
full
I'll make
year.
sure they're here and.
yeah,
they'll be
it was
able to
just sort of
answer.
like, how long, is it a 6-month cycle, is it a 12-month cycle, is it,
12 months.
Yeah.
you know, how long before they change rates
all right.
again? That was
Good
my
questions, good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address council? All right, move into council comments. Any council members have comments this evening? All right, we'll move into our legislative agenda. Ms. Courtwright.
Ordinance 11, 2023, an ordinance by the Council of the City of New Philadelphia, Ohio, authorizing ORDC to submit the PY 2023 Community Housing Impact and Preservation Lead Abatement Program, CHIP LAP, program application with the State of Ohio on behalf of the City of New Philadelphia, and administer said program and declaring emergency. First reading.
Is there any action been taken by council on this legislation tonight? Mr. Alonso?
Yes, Mr. President, I ask that we suspend the rules on ordinance 11, 2023.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
All right, Mr. Rippeth, thank you. Any comments by administration, council? Roll call.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
All right, rules have been suspended. Now to entertain a motion, Mr. Alonso.
Yes, I move that we pass ordinance 11, 2023.
Do I have a second? Mr. Rippeth, thank you. A discussion by the community, administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 11, 2023 has passed.
And that concludes legislation for
All
this
right.
evening, Mr.
All right, thank you, Ms. Courtwright. Is there any unfinished or old business to discuss this evening? Is there any new business to discuss this evening?
Motion to adjourn?
Mr. Allen, you beat me to it, thank you. We are adjourned at 8:08 PM. Thank you, everyone.
Couple of those were quick
Take
today,
that,
weren't
Steve.
they?
Take that, Steve.